Welcome back, everybody, to episode 2 of Hot Takes and Cold Brews, featuring the AJL Sports Talk team. In part 1, we talked about the Edmonton Oilers goaltending situation. If you haven't seen that, check that out. And then for part 2, we're going to be talking about the cross checks. Lately, since game 1 of this season, since Mathews took a couple of cross checks from Shea Weber and Ben Sherratt, it's been a very big topic of discussion. And it seems like the referees are starting to call more cross checks in front of the net. I'm here with my partner Alex, and he's also got a couple of beers, just like me. Yeah. And we're ready to discuss. We're ready to discuss the cross checks. So, what are your initial thoughts?
So definitely, I think in the last couple of games, at least that I've seen, they have been more Montreal games, but I saw a couple of Leafs ones as well. They've been really cracking down on the cross checks. I don't know. I like to think that when you're in front of the net, you should kind of have more free reign to do not whatever you want, but like you should be able to clear the front of the net. I saw a couple in the Oilers game a couple of nights ago, just for like Sherratt or whatever, which is kind of cross check someone who was basically in the blue paint, knock them halfway over, or whatever the ref would call it. And it's kind of like, well, I think you should be able to get if you go to the front of the net, you got to expect that's coming. And I think the defender should have free reign to kind of at least clear the front of the net. Obviously, if it's like a vicious cross check to the face or something like that, that should be called. But I just mean like if you're clearing the front of the net, that should be allowed for sure.
Yeah, I think especially when both players are engaged in a battle in front of the net. I mean, you gotta let them push it out. And especially, I mean, the front of the net is a tough person's place to play. I mean, if you're going to the front of the net, you have to be ready to battle for every inch of space. You watch Brendan Gallagher, how many cross checks he takes, and how many pushes and shots he takes every time he goes to the front of the net, and he's a warrior. But I just think, and if you're going to go to the front of the net, you have to be ready to take some cross checks, and if you're a defenseman, you have to do what you can to clear the net. Now, at least I know Montreal got 2 penalties for cross checking in their game against Edmonton on Monday night. I actually didn't mind those 2 that much as I probably usually would, just because both times the puck was actually was being delivered towards the front of the net at the time, and as the puck was being delivered, they were knocked down by a cross check in front of the net. I do think there is a difference between if the puck is on its way over or if it's just a regular battle when the puck's at the point or being passed around the outside. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's more of an interference kind of. Like if you're just clearing the front of the net when the puck's being moved around, that's one thing. But like if there's a pass or a shot coming that you can maybe get a deflection on, you can definitely tie up their stick or whatever. But yeah, if you just knock the guy over because the puck's coming, that should be called some of the time. I mean, it depends because it's like a judgment call for the refs. But yeah, I think that should be called more often. Also, the ones in that game were a little bit more, at least they knocked the guy over. It wasn't just a cross check. Like I'm just remembering the one in the Leafs game where Sherratt cross checked Mathews and then Mathews cross checked him back and Sherratt got the penalty. Like, I don't think that should ever be a penalty for either of them. But again, if you're going to call it, at least call both because they're both doing the exact same thing. Like you can't call one, not the other. But yeah, I mean, if you want to can bring it into our next point here. Like,
well, I mean, just going back, I just think well, one kind of issue I think it can bring up is if you're going to call a cross check every time somebody gets knocked over, then you're going to get guys just falling over on purpose, and that's just terrible for the game. You don't want to see guys, diving and just the softest cross check to get knocked over, and just because it'll be a penalty, that's just not good for the game,
Yeah, you also don't want to be laying down on your face in front of the net because that's where the puck's coming. So
yeah, especially when you got a Shea Weber slap shot coming.
Encourage that. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think just bring it on to our next point here, like the Mathews incident where his agent complained. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I get it. I understand why his agent is saying these things. I mean, this is worth his money. Mathews is his investment, right? He's making all this money, and he's going to continue to make all this money off of Mathews. But I mean, how much does I don't think he really needs to say anything, to be honest. I mean, he has nothing to do with the game. He's not in the game, and more importantly, if you're going to complain about cross checks, you taking cross checks, then you don't get to go around breaking your stick on cross checks. in front of the net as well. Like if you're gonna go
In the
cross
same
check
thing.
someone so hard that it breaks your stick, then you don't get to complain about taking a cross check yourself. So
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and I think I don't know if that complaint would have come who it would have come from, or if it was just the agent. I think that's probably what happened. But either way, it just looks bad on Mathews. Like, kind of makes you look like you're a little bit soft, which I think the referees wouldn't like because they'll be like, "Oh, you think I missed calls?" Like I don't think that'd bode well for him. And then the players are going to be like, "Oh, okay, it's free reign to do whatever I want to you because you're just complaining."
yeah,
So
exactly. If
I,
you're just
I don't
gonna
think that's
whine,
beneficial to him.
yeah, if you're just gonna whine, I'm just gonna keep, cross checking you. And then from a Montreal point of view, those cross checks to Matthews that hurt him a little bit, you got to be loving that you're giving him a few bruises in game one of the season when you're going to play him 10 times. You know, that's really
Yeah,
sending a
for sure.
message that you're going to have to, you know, you're going to have to be tough to deal with our defense kind of thing, you know?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Like and again, like if you don't want to get cross checked, you can't go to those tough areas. Like for him, I don't know if he really even needs to. He's got a good enough shot to kind of stay on the outside and just wait for the puck to come to him and then just shoot from like the high slot somewhere like there. But he was in the tough areas, so you're gonna get what's coming if you go there. It's kind of
Yeah.
part of the game.
And I think too, yeah, especially if you are in the crease, in the blue paint, then the goalie and the defenseman get to do whatever they want to get rid of you. There's no crease violation in NHL. It's only in
Yeah,
international hockey. Then you have to be able to, like, otherwise you could just have a guy standing in the middle of the crease for no reason, and that's just doesn't make any sense if you can't touch him, right? I mean, as a defenseman, you're told to give your goalie as good of a view of the puck as possible and to not let him take any hacks as possible. And yeah, sometimes you have to just not let him get there in the first place, but that's also part of it. It's just a net front battle, right?
yeah, for sure. Like the defender definitely has to be given the opportunity to clear the front of the net, and even like the forward should be able to cross check the defenseman back. Like I don't know. I think that's kind of part of the game. Like obviously you want to get rid of injuries, but like I don't think that's really like hurting anyone that badly. Few bruises here and there is what you're going to expect if you're playing in the bigs.
Yeah, I mean, just ask Gallagher what it's like, or someone like Matthew Kachuk, or anybody who sits in front of the net, waiting, trying to be a net front presence. You're going to take a few bruises, you know.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And yeah, I think with that, unless you have anything else,
No,
that's most of
I
my
don't,
opinion.
I have nothing else to say on that. I don't think just front of the net is for tough people, and if you have to be ready to go to war when you're going to go sit in front of the net. And I think with that, that'll wrap up our part two of hot takes and cold brews. Thank you all for watching.